Hello and welcome to Thought for September the 6th. Our readings are 2 Kings chapters 11 and 12, Ezekiel chapter 2 and 2 Corinthians chapters 8 and 9. And our thought is, I, Paul, entreat you by the meekness of Christ. Paul's 10th chapter of his second letter to the Corinthians starts with an impassioned appeal to them. His appeal challenges us to consider the extent to which we and others are influenced by the way people try to influence others to accept and believe what they are saying. Let us ponder the way we and others try to influence other people to believe us. The worst example is probably seen in the arguments in Parliament, but within religious circles over the years, we see a multitude of examples. How little meekness was shown. How many different churches. Now let us look at the way Paul appeals to the believers in Corinth. I, Paul, myself, entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. Paul proceeds to appeal to them to see how we destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. Verse 5. This is far more than considering what he said. Paul was successful in the approach of meekness and gentleness, so that in that generation, and at least one or two following, Paul's approach resulted in many of the idol worshippers having a total change of heart. This is more than acquiring an academic belief. Would that we had Paul among us today. Look at the reaction he caused among the Thessalonians. We read at the end of chapter 1 of his first letter to them of the kind of reception we had among you, and how you turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God, and to wait for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, Jesus, who delivers us from the wrath to come. Paul's approach, together with other apostles, resulted in the ancient world accepting and practicing the meekness of Christ. Can we see any of that approach today? Paul's aim was to get them to obey Christ. That obedience results in the meekness and gentleness of Christ being seen in us. Food for our deep and careful thought today. And this is the next vital stage before our saying, I believe. Well, thank you once again for joining us for Thought for the Day, where together we can open up the pages of God's Word, knowing that Word to be a lamp to our feet and a light to our path.